Hello, you're watching Tell It Like It Is, and my name is Kathy Benuck. Today's show is part of a three-part series of interviews called Race for the Sheriff, in which we will meet and talk to the two Republicans and the one Democrat running for the sheriff of Hillsborough County. Now, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is responsible for covering 876 square miles in New Hampshire, covering a population of 393,207 people. And it includes the state's biggest cities, Manchester and Nashua. Its deputies are all New Hampshire certified police officers, with the exception of those folks who are court officers. And the deputies all have duties very, very similar to that of U.S. Marshals, and they work closely with the local, with county, with state, and with federal law enforcement agencies and personnel. They have a lot of duties, and some of the duties include involvement in domestic violence-related issues and those dealing with child custody, landlord and tenant battles, bank levies and attachments, family court issues. The court offices provide perimeter security to the district and superior courts in the county. And the deputy sheriffs can really be, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, they can really be in some dangerous situations on a day-to-day basis while they're providing prisoner transport, while they have custody and control of prisoners in the courthouses, while they're delivering restraining orders, and especially on things like when they're locating people for whom bench warrants have been issued and then executing those warrants. Things can get sticky in a hurry when you work in law enforcement. Now, my guest today is the Democratic candidate, Bill Barry. And many of you are familiar with him because he has worked in law enforcement for 27 years. He began his career in 1985 with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, started out working in dispatch, moved through civil process serving, prisoner transport, and in 1993 he was assigned to the Fugitive Unit, where he spent 17 years and was involved in the apprehension and arrest of over 1,500 fugitives. He also was involved in several missing person cases, all of which was successfully resolved. In fact, in 2007, something pretty amazing happened. He was named by the National Law Enforcement Officer of the Year by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at their annual congressional breakfast in Washington, D.C. And this was for a case that involved the successful recovery of 2 missing children, as well as the apprehension of one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. And for that, he received additional honors. He was received recognition by the FBI and a special badge that's given only to those people who were involved in the capture of one of the 10 most wanted criminals. He began working for the Auburn Police Department in 2011, just about a year ago, and in less than 10 months, and working with somebody with the state's cold case unit, an 11-year-old cold case murder in Auburn was solved. He also was charged with trying to do something to decrease burglaries in the town of Auburn. And he initiated a plan that today has over 500 people, 500 residents involved in a neighborhood watch program. And they actually have decreased burglaries from 11 per month less than a year ago to either 1 or none per month now. Bill's president of the Hillsborough County Law Enforcement Association, but his involvement doesn't stop there. He served as a baseball, basketball, and football coach for several kids' teams. He works with the Girls and Boys Clubs, the Salvation Army, Big Brothers and Big Sisters as a mentor as well, with Special Olympics and their Challenger League, with Webster House, where he served both on the board and as president. And in 2009, he received a Service to Youth Award for the Queen City Rotary, from the Queen City Rotary. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. He's a Manchester resident, and he and his wife, Debbie, have a 10-year-old daughter, and I am told that she happens to be a rising golf star. So, with that, I want you to meet Bill Barry. Bill, thanks for being here, and
thank you for having me. It's really important for me to I'm new to politics, but obviously I'm not new to law enforcement. I've had a great career. I'm very proud of my accomplishments throughout the years of service with the Sheriff's Office and also Auburn PD. One of the things that's really, really important to me is my goal to make sure that our senior citizens are protected, and our children are protected, and properties are protected. And I've done that throughout the years of service with the Sheriff's Office and with Auburn PD.
Now, what do you think? How important do you think prior law enforcement is to managing the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I think it's very important, and there's a lot more to it than just overseeing the budget. We have actually a pretty small budget. It's a little less than $4 million right now. The county tax rate, I know, in Bedford is very minimal as far as the county portion of the tax rate. Right now, it's at $1.09 per thousand. Actually, $1.08 per thousand. In 2010, it was $1.09, so it went down a penny. And so, someone that has like a $300,000 home, they saved $3 in the last year.
$3.
So just some taxes that I pay in Manchester, the bulk of the taxes go to the schools and so on. But I think it's really important for people to know that the sheriff's office has so much power. They have arrest powers throughout the state, which I've always used. I've worked hand in hand with every single police department in the county at one time or other, whether it be chasing down fugitives. You're talking about the dangers of law enforcement. That's when you're taking someone's freedom away. It's a big thing, and it's a real dangerous thing. And one of the things that I want to make sure of when I get elected sheriff is that all the deputies, the men and women of the sheriff's office, are safe, and it's a practical goal, and I just think that training is a big part of that.
I can understand that. Now, what do you think is the most important function, or can you even pick one out, of the whole Sheriff's Department?
Well, just a brief background as far as a lot of people will ask me, a lot of friends of mine will ask me, and even the public will ask, what are the duties of the Sheriff's Office? One of my easiest answers is we enforce court orders, and that be civil process. They're all issued by the court. Transporting of prisoners, again, they're issued by the court for us to pick up prisoners at the local jails, the state prison, and bring them to the district courts and superior courts. And then, of course, you have the fugitive unit, which, again, they're court orders because they're arrest warrants, and we have to go out and enforce them. And the ones that I've always worked on as part of the fugitive unit is they're all felons. They're all people that are wanted on felony charges. So it's not these small time. You just didn't show up to district court or whatever. These are big time offenders. I've worked on murder cases, missing children cases that involved abuse and in crimes against seniors. And I'll tell you, I've always, when I was in charge of the fugitive unit, even when I wasn't, if we ever got any warrants that involved child abuse or senior elderly abuse, they would go to the front of the line, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think those are the ones that really pull the heartstrings of everybody who has to be involved. Whether it's trying to find them, arresting them, prosecuting them, or whatever. I mean, those are the cases that send shivers up all our spines. Yeah.
Well, throughout the years, people have asked me. They said, how do you do it? How are you able to track down all these fugitives? And what I always say, and it's like anything. It's like anything in life. You've got to be motivated. And what motivates me is every single case that I've ever worked on has a victim, and every victim has a family. And when you're working with the victims and you're reading all the reports that the local police departments did on the actual case, and you meet up with them and you meet up with the family members, if that doesn't motivate anyone, then they're in the wrong business.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's tough. It's kind of like the medical profession in a way. You have to maintain your cool and be straight-faced and not lose your professionalism, but maybe inside, you're getting torn apart and you're bringing it home at night, no matter what anybody says. It's in your head.
You are, and I have a 10-year-old daughter. Back when I received the award from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, it meant a lot to me. My daughter at that time was 5 years old. And she actually went down. My wife and my daughter went down to Washington D.C. to receive the award at a congressional breakfast, and they actually put her in a separate room because when you go in there, actually there was a person that was sitting next to me Ed Smart. His daughter was Elizabeth Smart from Utah. So
right.
these are all true stories. These are all true cases, and it hits you. It hits you in the heart, and it hits you everywhere. That these bad things happen.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I do get elected sheriff, the first thing that I'm going to do, and it's only open to, you have to be the sheriff or police chief of any of the towns. They invite the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children invites you down there, so it's open. It's been open for years. They invite you down for training, and one of the things that I'm going to implement when I get elected is to make sure that our children are protected. That we have something that the sheriff is the sheriff's department, which oversees all the other police departments, has something in place to make sure that we educate the children, the parents, the teachers, and other law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we live in a society where it seems to be increasing.
It does. I mean, you put on CNN or HLN news, and you watch the Nancy Grace shows, and you see all of these horror stories of kids that go missing, and it happens. These people are predators. These people that are committing these crimes and kidnapping young boys and girls. We've got to put a stop to it, and the one way to do it is to educate. And you have to get the message out there, and it's really important. And it's pretty comparable to what I did in Auburn when I started the Neighborhood Watch. They were getting close to about 11 burglaries a month, which is a lot for Auburn because it's a small town. And some of the people that were in the police department said, you'd be lucky, because I had said, I'd like to form a Neighborhood Watch group. And they said, well, you'd be lucky to do that because we tried it in the past. We've only got 20 people to show up and all that. Well, I met with one of the police commissioners, and we came up with a plan after Labor Day of last year, of 2011. We had a meeting with all the residents. We invited all the residents, and over 100 showed up.
That's a lot.
So I beat the 20.
Especially for a small town.
Yeah, it is. And it's grown. And now we've got over 500. And the burglary rates have decreased from 11 per month down to less than 1. And it's probably even less than that. You can't go much less. But
that's right.
It works. And it works because we can't do it alone. In law enforcement, you can't do it alone. If you try to do it alone, you're not going to win. It's going to be a losing battle. You need to get the public involved. And that goes back with children. With you have to be able to educate them. Going to and from school, the bus stops. Kids. They might be 3 of them walking home from school, but then they split up. Sooner or later, they're going to split up, and you've got that bad guy that's out there looking and waiting. And he's waiting for them to split up. And I will guarantee you that I will. My goal right away is to implement a program to protect the children, and implement a program to protect our seniors, because those two groups of people are the most vulnerable groups that we have, and it's our job to make sure that they're safe.
Well, and speaking of that, just in the past couple of days, I think most of us have seen those news clips. I can't remember what state it took place, but the brother and the sister, and somebody tried to apprehend the little girl, and because the kids had received some training, the little girl knew enough to fight like crazy, yell and scream. She bit the attacker. The little boy raised a ruckus, and because of all that, she was able to get free of him.
Right, and that's important. And going back to back when I was down in Washington, we had gone out to dinner at the night after the ceremony, and we had met up with this mother and father who had a daughter who did the exact same thing. She was from New York, and someone tried to apprehend her and actually pulled her towards the van, and she just kept screaming and screaming and screaming, and then finally, he let go because, he knew that someone eventually is going to hear her. So, and that's the right thing to do. But you need to make sure that everyone knows that.
Yeah, I mean, young children kind of need to be told that because, they're used to kind of giving into authority, and a grown-up is an authority figure. So, yeah, they really do have to be instructed.
Yeah, and it's not difficult, and all these cases that I've worked on, the missing children cases, the fugitive cases, the murder case, I didn't do it alone. I would never ever take credit for, you know, because there are so many people that get involved, so many law enforcement agencies that you have to contact, and so many civilians that you actually speak with, and without everyone working together, it just wouldn't get done. And I mean, I'm not gonna go into the sheriff's office and say I'm going to take over the county. I'm going to run every police department in the county. I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is I'll work with them. I'll work with all the police chiefs and all the police officers because it's important, and it was important for me. Unfortunately, you got Manchester and Nashua in the same county, in the two largest cities, and the bulk of the crime is in those cities. And I've worked with Manchester PD and also the Nashua Police Department on a lot of fugitive cases, bank robbers, murders, crimes against children, elderly, and it works. Teamwork is just so important in law enforcement.
And you know, I mean, truth be told, yes, Manchester and Nashua would have more situations because they're bigger and have a bigger population. But I mean, is any town in New Hampshire immune these days?
No.
Exactly.
They're not. And
exactly.
Even, you know, you've got Bedford's a beautiful town, and but you know what? They still have crime.
Yeah. We've had a bank robbery. We've had situations. Our new chief, Chief Brafonsky, recognized the need for a neighborhood watch program because Bedford, so much of it is wooded, so much of it is areas where houses can't be seen from the street, or neighbors can't really see each other and such, and there was a need for it because there was an incidence of house breaks happening. Right. And obviously, I think, you know, everybody's sharing ideas, which is so important. I mean, you know what has worked over in Auburn, and you're able to give that info to a town like Bedford and say, hey, this is what worked for us. Right,
and Auburn is pretty similar. Auburn has some really, really beautiful homes, but their driveways are so long, and it's so wooded that, and that's why it's important. One of the things that I always told the residents in Auburn is you've got to be, you know, you've got to be vigilant. You've got to be the eyes, you know, and when you're going to work, and humans are the worst creatures of habit, and the bad guys pick up on it. They know exactly what time they go to work, what time they come home, so they know how much time they have in between to commit burglaries, and there's a pattern there, and they wait for it and they watch it. But when you're going down the street, it's not just about yourself; it's about helping your neighbors, and that's why the neighborhood watch is so important. When you see something out of the ordinary, when you see a couple kids in a car at 9 o'clock in the morning sitting around, something's probably up. It may not be, but at least call the police and go out there. Don't take matters into your own hands. And that's one thing I always stress with them. I said, you know, we want you to be vigilant. We don't want you to be a vigilante. You know, we'll take care of it. We'll work it. You know, and Auburn's small. We only, you know, a couple times a week we'll only have you know, one guy on, especially during the nighttime hours. In a lot of small towns in Hillsborough County, the same way. They only have.
Aren't there even a couple that there's nobody on at night? Is that
still? There is. Yeah, there's a couple that the state police will patrol and help them out and stuff, things like that. But I think it's important for the sheriff's office. I think it's important for every law enforcement agency to work together. The days of the past where, you know, we'll take care of our own, you take care of your own, they should be gone, you know. And if there's anyone that's still thinking that way, then they need to, you know, rethink what they're doing.
And I'm sure, truth be told, the head of every department, whether it's the local police department or state police unit or whatever, I'm sure every one of them would say they'd like to have more staff. So it only makes sense for the different agencies to be working together and pooling their resources.
Right, because I think a lame excuse for a police department saying, well, we don't have the funding. You know what? Pool your resources. You know, work together. You know, you can get the job done. When I become sheriff, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we initiate more warrant sweeps, which included. I was on quite a few fugitive task forces with the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, the local police departments, and we all worked together. And we did a great job. I mean, we arrested a lot of people, and it works. So if it works, keep doing it. You know, everyone has their own resources. You know, we're not going to pay for Nashua. We're not going to pay for, you know, Bedford to come over. But you know what? If we work together, they're already on the payroll. If they can come over and spend a few hours, a few days a week, it's going to pay off.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, as we all know, budgets are tight everywhere, both in government and in private business. Do you think this has affected the operations of the sheriff's office in the past couple of years, since everybody's really had a crunch?
Well, you know, maybe I'm a big fan of the fugitive unit because I just think it's just so important to get these people off the streets that are wanted, that have already committed crimes. I see that we would need more people in that unit. Now, do we have to hire more people, or again, you know, do we reach out to other police departments to see if they can spare someone? I know the marshals have, in the past few years, have asked the sheriff's office to send one of our guys over with them, and I don't have a problem with that because I think if that person goes over and works with the U.S. Marshals, they're going to bring all our warrants. So not all of them, but they're going to bring quite a few of our warrants to so that they'll work on them. And the marshals. They do an awesome job, and I've worked with them on so many cases. I know what they can do, and I know that they have a lot more computer and things like the electronics that we don't have. And so if we can spare a guy and have him go over there, I'm all for it.
Now, if money was not an issue, and you could do whatever you wanted, have you identified any improvements you think really do need to be made with the sheriff's office?
Well, when you're dealing with transports, we've always been overwhelmed, especially recently within the last 10 years or even more. We've been hit hard. You know, there's a lot. You know, especially when they had both Superior Courts open. Now they have them. They're both open again, but. Because they had closed Manchester for renovation, so everything was going down to Nashua, and that made it really more difficult for our transport guys to get down there and it's a timely fashion. And we only have so many people working in the transport division, and when you're going to the state prison, you're going to the county jails, and not just Hillsborough County Jail. These people are scattered. They're throughout the state of New Hampshire. So for us to go and get out there, you know, we only have so many vehicles, we only have so much manpower. It's tough, you know. What I have to do is I have to find a solution. One of the solutions I thought of, and that I would try to implement, is starting earlier, having the courts open a little bit earlier, especially the guys the court officers, have them there early, pick up the prisoners from especially the far away prisons. Make sure we get out there, you know, earlier, get them down to the courts.
Is that something the sheriff's office could implement, or would you have to go through the whole judiciary system and get their approval?
No, it would be us. Again, it's a court order. So when we get these transport orders from the court saying that, hey, you've got to go up to Berlin, and that's a long drive.
Oh yeah.
And this is back and forth. It's not just one way. So you got to bring that prisoner back. They'll be all for it, because I know there's been a lot of complaints recently from the judges that the prisoners weren't getting down there in a timely fashion, and it's interrupting the other court cases that people are there.
Sure, and it's not like you can load the cars up and bring everybody for a long joyride either.
You know, if you're down in Florida, you can do it. They have buses, you know.
Is that right?
But unfortunately, again, you know, we're just so scattered, and you're going all throughout the state, and they're not just quick drives, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Are there any new programs that were inside your head that you'd like to implement if you get elected?
Well, the program with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the plus that I have with them is that I've worked with them, so they're familiar with me, and I'm familiar with them. So I want to implement that program right away. And the election's in November. As soon as I get elected, I wouldn't take office until January. But that's one of the first things that's right on my top of my list, is to make sure that we start visiting the schools, and not just by ourselves, but if we're going to go to the Bedford schools, we're going to go with someone from Bedford. We're not going to step on anyone's feet. We're going to work together, and so I think that's pretty much in the seniors. We need to get someone in the senior that's going to protect the seniors. We had a person that was on board a few years ago, and then he got a job with the Attorney General's office. So for the past 4 years, it's been vacant, and it shouldn't be. We should have someone in there that's going to watch over the seniors. And again, you've got to educate them. You've got to get to the. There's so many scams out there.
Oh, I know.
And it's not just you'll see a lot of the roofing scams and paving scams and even landscaping scams. It's people from Jamaica that are calling and getting these people all worked up, and unfortunately they just get so nervous they give out their bank cards, their bank accounts and things like that, and you stop it. One of the other scams that they have that's really big is people will call. They do their homework. They know what they're doing, these people. And they'll call up someone that's a grandmother or grandfather and say, you know, your granddaughter was arrested in Montreal, and we need you. Yeah, and they fall for it.
Yeah.
And we just got to make sure that they are educated. You know?
Exactly. I know, you read it all the time, and it's really, it's unbelievable. Makes you kind of want to, I don't know, you just say, how can there be people so sleazy in the world? But there are. Compared to this, just a quick question. Compared to the other county sheriff's offices in New Hampshire, do you think they're all basically the same, or do you see Hillsborough County as more of a leader?
Hillsborough County should be the leader. I mean, we've got the highest population in the whole state, and we should be leading. You know, and that's one thing that, you know, I pride myself on a challenge, and all these cases, again, all these cases that I've worked on. There were a lot of challenges. There were people would tell me, "Oh, there's no way you'll be able to do it. No way you'll be able to find this person." The FBI looked for this missing child, couldn't find him, and I ended up doing it because it motivates you to do things like that. But we should be the leader. Again, we have the 2 largest cities in the county. We need to get along with the other police departments, and I think that's something that we're not doing right now.
Well, Bill, as always, the time has flown, as you can see. And I want you to have the last effort here. Look at that camera over there and tell everybody who's watching the show why they need to go to the polls and cast their vote for Bill Berry for sheriff.
Okay. Well, you know, I've been in law enforcement 27 years. I have a passion for doing the right thing. I love a challenge, and for those people out there that, you know, hopefully, you know, one of the things that I'm actually, and I've told people this throughout this process. Again, I'm new to politics. I don't like politics, but unfortunately, you have to play the game. One of the things that I've been telling people that in the 27 years of law enforcement, when I'm looking for a missing child, a fugitive, working the murder case, not one person has ever asked me if I was a Democrat or Republican. So I think you've got to keep that in mind. That don't look at the party. Look at the what someone's going to do and what their thoughts are for moving Hillsborough County to the future. I think we need a leader, someone that's going to do that, and I will.
Good job. You stayed right in the time frame there. Well, Bill, we will have your website on the screen, and not your website. I'm sorry, your email address and contact telephone number. But for all of you who are watching, and if you would like to contact Bill directly, his email address is all one word, lowercase, billbarryforsheriff@comcast.net. And Bill, best of luck in the campaign. It's been a pleasure meeting you and having you here, and I enjoyed talking with you, and you certainly have a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, for everybody out there, again, this was one of the 3-part series, and I'm sure you found it very educational. I certainly hope you'll continue on and watch the rest of the series and hear all of our candidates. Bill told it like it is, and I'm sure the other 2 candidates will as well. So until the next time, you keep on telling it like it is. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.